Hello and welcome back to another episode of Nick Tiffany's Movie Reviews in the podcast form. Today we are talking about Still, a Michael J. Fox movie. This is the latest Apple original documentary that comes from Davis Guggenheim. You might know that name from previous documentaries he's written and directed, such as Waiting for Superman back in 2010. I remember that was huge kind of when I was first starting to get into doing some film reviewing and whatnot. It was an examination of the American school system as a financial institution as far as, taking care of children and their needs and teachers and their needs. He also directed An Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore's global warming kind of lecture circuit with a call for immediate action. And looking through his other works, he's primarily done a lot of little different political documentaries, following President Biden, following President Obama at one point. But the documentary is certainly his wheelhouse. So that's how he finds Michael J. Fox to tell the story of, one of the most incredibly charming and just, I don't know, as far as an actor goes, it's someone that you like. I know it's easy to have favorite actors sometimes, but I feel like there's a difference between seeing someone on the screen who you just look forward to seeing because their personality and the energy that they bring is infectious. And I don't know, for me, Michael J. Fox has always been one of those actors. My parents showed me the Back to the Future movies at a pretty early age, which I think was totally fine. There's nothing so inappropriate in any of those that was crazy. But from the DeLorean to the time travel to just, his quote life vest, everything about his character was so enjoyable and was just so much fun. And he really makes those movies. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in there, from Doc Brown to time travel and everything else. But I mean, Michael J. Fox is Marty McFly. And of course, I never watched Family Ties growing up. Was born about a decade or so late on that. But this documentary really dives into who he was, both as a person, as an actor coming up in Hollywood, and kind of following his trajectory through his career, while also then acknowledging the awful diagnosis of Parkinson's disease and kind of how he took that news initially, but then really how he just kept working regardless. It didn't want it to become a limitation for him. And so as I'm looking through his IMDb page here, I mean, the man is still working today. At one point he had a Michael J. Fox TV show. I remember his voice from Stuart Little, the Hugh Laurie Mouse movie back in the day. That was late 90s, so that was like perfect time when I was a kid. But I remember his voice from that. There was the Atlantis Lost Empire movie where he voiced Milo Thatch, who, was a huge cartoon character, I feel like, at the time for kids my age. Super awesome movies. But Michael J. Fox, and recently I've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm, and so he'll pop up every now and then, kind of messing around with Larry David, and, of course, Larry David's just the most inappropriate person ever. But Michael J. Fox just takes it in stride, and what really sticks out to me about him through this documentary, it's about, it's a little over an hour and a half. So I don't totally want to talk about too much of what happens without giving it away. Because it will certainly take you through a large majority of his Hollywood career. But what's really special, I think, is, moments where he first talks about working with Tracy Pollan, his wife, back on Family Ties. And, this woman who was so unlike any other person he'd met, both in Hollywood and the real world. At this point in time, he's on the top of the world. He's boy wonder. There was nothing he couldn't do or couldn't get away with. And here was a woman who was kind of challenging him and putting him in his place and saying, "Hey, no, you're being a jackass to me. So don't talk to me like that. Don't be doing this." And so, it was really interesting to see how she really changed him. She really grounded him. And then obviously, after the diagnosis, has been such an anchor for him. He mentions that, she whispered in sickness and in health when he told her, because it was something that he wanted to hide from the world. But, as his hands kind of kept shaking, he had to, obviously, he couldn't be alone in this. And so you really do get to see how he and his family, I'm not even going to say deal with it. I don't, that doesn't feel like it describes the life that they live and how they treat each other, because he is one who doesn't want sympathy. He said it himself. He would hate it if his family sat around all the time. "Oh, poor dad, he can't do this, he can't lift that up," or "Oh, he's struggling." He's like, I don't need the pity party. He's like, "I need you to treat me like you would anybody else." And I think, weirdly, I had a lot of parallels to Bruce Willis watching this, if only because recently it's come out that Bruce Willis has gotten pretty sick to the point where acting and speaking in certain things are going to be pretty impossible for him down the line. And so he was just putting together as many movies, whether it was straight to DVD or half indie, half just random crowdfunded, whatever it was. I think, there was a time where it seemed like, what the heck is this guy doing? He's just putting himself in all these bad movies. But what he was really doing was preparing his family for his inevitable retirement, because he knew he wouldn't be able to work. He knew it was going to get bad, and or worse, I should say. And he also just wanted to keep doing what he loved. And that's why I think, doing this job, the movie criticism, film criticism, I think, it's why I'm glad I've kind of moved away from, "Oh, this is a 2-star movie, this is a 1-star movie, whatever, this is a 5-star. I think it is easy to communicate when a film's great. And a lot of them do speak for themselves. And there's a lot of bad movies out there, though. But like I've said before, you'd have to try pretty hard to have a film that earns a 0 or a 1 out of 5, because a lot of people put a lot of time into these things, whether we think it or not. So hearing that about Bruce Willis really, I don't know, it put different things into perspective for me. He's trying to do as much as he can in a short amount of time to take care of his family. And I think it's incredibly admirable. And so then you look at Michael J. Fox, who, even after he got this Parkinson's diagnosis, kept it from the world and was like, "I need to keep working. I can't stay still, because when I'm still, I'm shaking and I'm with it. It's all consuming. But when I'm working, when I'm shooting, when I'm doing something, I can control it for the most part, or I can kind of control my own life." And so, you look at different ways that he would try to hide it during filming of different films and TV shows before he would eventually come out and let the world know. And it's just, God, he is such a fighter in so many ways. It's unbelievable. And it's unbelievable the lengths he went to just to try to, because, if that news comes out to the world, "Oh, well, maybe we're not putting you in our new Western or this action film because we don't want to run the risk, or we don't think that maybe you can keep up." It really, once that's out, there's a fear of letting the world know maybe what's going on with you, because there's going to be rejection. Or, they might say, based on principle, I don't think that we could do this, just looking out for your health, And so it really was a way for him to kind of keep doing what he loves, obviously, without the judgment, without the people saying, "Oh, poor Michael Vaughn, I don't think we could have, we don't want to run the risk. We don't want to be the film that, gets you in a serious accident." But you still see him today. The guy's, 60 some years old right now. And he is still walking around, jetting around. Obviously he works with a personal trainer who is really in tune with how his body moves, the debilitations that come with Parkinson's and how it will affect you, creating all these different plans as far as exercise routines, just so that he can keep going. But it's also heartbreaking because, an unfortunate truth that Michael J. Fox kind of reveals at the beginning is, if you have Parkinson's, you're going to fall. And you're going to fall a lot. You're going to break some bones. You're going to scrape yourself a ton. You might hurt your chin. And he's like, it just comes with the territory. And so there's multiple moments where he's just, whether it was throughout his career or even in present day as we're seeing, takes a tumble or takes a fall and, there's a dislocation of a finger right there. And it just, it kills you to watch. And of course the doctor is like, you just need to rest. You need to do whatever. Don't be walking around. Don't be doing this. But that's like telling someone not to breathe. He will not submit to this illness. And it was really touching getting to see his family. His 2 daughters, or maybe 3 daughters even, I think, actually, and a son. And so just listening to their interactions, seeing them as a family unit, it's just really touching. It's touching to see the legacy that he's leading, the love he has for this family, and obviously the love that they have for him. I just think this documentary is a winner. You're going to leave feeling changed, and I think a really good way for me. It really shined a brighter light on Michael J. Fox than I kind of already had. It was really cool to see a lot of different footage from some of his earlier works and watching this kid grow into the adult that obviously I know now and the man I've seen now. But outside of those Back to the Future films and some of his kid films, it was really fun to see him pop up in all these different roles. And so it gives you a lot to kind of go and look back on. I'm like, I've got some movie homework to go back and watch. But I really do implore everybody to give this film a shot and to check it out. It is well worth your while. Can't say enough great things about Michael J. Fox as a person and an actor. He leads with humility. He leads with honesty. And it's a beautiful, beautiful documentary. So please, everybody, if you have Apple TV, watch it. If you don't, we'll find you another way. Because I can definitely see this popping up towards the end of the year as something that people certainly look back to as one of the better documentaries for the films this year. So thank you again for listening, guys. Stay tuned. I know I keep saying it, but we got an overload of SIF coverage coming to you. So stay tuned for that as well. Thanks again.